Hello friends! My name is Vlada, and in this video I will show you every step of the lash lamination procedure. Today we have a wonderful model who is only 14 years old, and this is her very first lash lamination. And of course I was a little nervous about doing this kind of work, but the result was worth it. Watch until the end to see the result. At the very beginning, we need to properly analyze the client's initial features in order to choose the strategy we will use moving forward. What do we see here? Light colored lashes with their own natural curl, and they are quite long. So when we work with long lashes, there's an important point not to over curl them, not to make the curl too strong, because it can end up pressing against the eyelid. To unlock the full potential of the lashes, I choose lifting pads for a lifting effect. And the next step after determining the effect and the brand is to choose the size. Dolly has a total of 5 sizes. I generally rule out sizes S and L. S is too flat, and L is a bit disproportionate. The middle is very bulky, while the corners are too flat. Overall, it's a rather awkward size, so I don't use it, and the working sizes are sizes M, Moan, and M2 with tension. I immediately ruled out size M for working with this model, because her lashes are too long. I'm working with this girl for the first time, but I suspect that if I were to use the Dolly pad in size M, the curl would be too strong, that is, the lift from the root would be too pronounced, and the lashes might end up touching the eyelid. To avoid this, I use more voluminous pads, for example, size Moan. After trying on size M2, I realized that in principle, yes, it fits, but I still want to go with size Moan. I think it looks much better on these eyes, on these lashes. I'm laying out the lashes using Fray Weaver gel glue. I know that right now you could say professionals are divided into two camps. Some love gel glue, while others say it's impossible to work with and that the lashes come off. To be honest, in all the time I've worked with this glue, only once did the lashes actually come off during the process, and even then it happened after applying the second solution. And in that case, I myself, let's just say, made a bit of a mistake. That is, I applied too much of the second solution. A much smaller amount would have been enough. I just decided, since I had already squeezed the solution out of the bottle a bit too much, honestly thought, well, I'll just use all of it. And that's when the lashes started coming off, because I had also extended the first solution a bit further, which meant I needed to apply the second solution along the entire length as well. So basically, the lashes then said, bye-bye, we're coming off the rod. But in principle, this happened after the second solution. The curl was already set, so it wasn't a big deal. Now, once the placement is done, I move on to applying the first solution. The topic that probably concerns every technician is how long should you leave the solution zone? Because this is such a delicate topic. If you don't leave the solution on long enough, you'll end up with a weak curl. If you leave the solution zone too long, oh my, you could actually burn the lashes. That's really scary. And just recently, under one of my videos where I also show the work process, someone asked me how long I left the solutions on when working with this particular model. And I realized that I don't even remember anymore, because it's just such unnecessary information for me that as soon as I removed the solutions, I immediately forgot how long the exposure time was. Of course, during the process I set a timer, but only so that the exposure time is the same for both the first and the second eye. I never time it according to the instructions. I don't rely on the instructions provided by the manufacturer at all, because every client's lashes are different and the conditions in the studio are different. It might be cold where you are, and the solutions will work more slowly than what the manufacturer wrote in the instructions. And if it's hot, the solutions will work faster. And we all have different lamps too. If the lamp is weak and barely gives off any light, then it basically won't affect the processing time of the solutions at all. But if, for example, like during my filming, there are video lights all around, a lamp and a third lamp shining as well, then of course the lamps also give off heat, and the processing time for the solution is slightly reduced, since the solution works faster. That's why just bare information like I left the solution on for 10 minutes or I left it on for 12 minutes is absolutely useless. I always work based on the readiness of the lashes. I check the lash to see if it's ready, observe how it's behaving, and then make a decision. Either I remove the solution now, or I wait a couple more minutes and check the lash for readiness again. Yes, we read the instructions, we look at the processing time recommended by the manufacturer, but only at the very beginning, when we've just purchased new solutions, just to understand what type of solutions this brand offers. Are these slow-acting solutions, medium or fast-acting ones? That's it! And then we absolutely don't need this information from the instructions. It's simply useless for us. We throw away the instructions and focus only on the readiness of the lashes. If you have trouble with this, I invite you to join my online course on the art of lamination. You'll learn how to create bold, beautiful curls and also how to photograph them attractively to draw in clients. Details are in the first comment. Now, let's move on to a very interesting stage in working with this model. This is eyelash tinting. Remember what our starting point was? These are very light lashes that are almost invisible. And when working with lashes like these, it's especially important to tint them evenly. The thing is, if we're working with naturally dark lashes, then any mistakes we make during tinting will probably go unnoticed. But if, for example, when working with this model we don't tint the tips, we simply won't see them on the rod. Or if, for example, we are afraid to bring the dye down to the root area and end up not tinting the roots at all, that will also be very noticeable. That's why when working with light eyelashes, you need to pay special attention to tinting. Check how the root area looks, how the tips look, and make sure you've really tinted all the tips and applied dye there, because it's easy to miss something since the tips are white and the rod is also white. I always pay very close attention to the cleansing stage after the procedure. But when working with such a young model, I wanted everything to be absolutely clean, 100%. There was no dye left, no glue neither on the eyelid nor on the lashes themselves. That's why I cleansed with foam and water. Basically, that's my standard step. That's exactly how I always do it. By the way, let me explain why situations like this happen. When a client gets up after the procedure, looks in the mirror at the studio, and it seems like, well, there's at least some curl left. But then the client goes home, washes their face, sleeps, and in the morning, for example, washes their face again, looks in the mirror and realizes that nothing has changed at all. If yesterday there was at least some curl, today that curl is gone. All of this happens because sometimes technicians don't dry the lashes completely or don't clean off the glue thoroughly. Because of this, it seems like the curl is a bit stronger than it actually is. That's why when you perform a proper cleansing, you actually see the real result after the procedure, not just a result that's held together by glue and disappears after washing. And here is the result we've achieved. Look at how delicate and beautiful these lashes look. You know, at moments like this, I think what a wonderful procedure we have lash lamination.